Where should I put it?
Yeah.
Do you have like unique presentation?
I don't.
Where should I put the iPads?
Over that, so
So it's agent.
How should I put this? Like, would that be shown everything or like just something like that?
yeah, to be fair, if you want to just sit there and record it.
Okay.
It's so good. I feel like Dan will like
Right.
Right, hello everyone. We're going to start playing here relatively accomplished. Had a bit of issues today, but hopefully all is good. So this is meeting 3.2, which is also known as the budget meeting. So we've got Dan doing an annual report, and then Saf doing a treasurer annual report, and then the budgets for next year. We've also got the usual motions, elections, etc. There's quite a lot to get through. Probably going to be a long meeting, but I will try and make it as short as possible. So first off, we're going to start with some correspondence, and Fia's starting with fretting applications for next year.
I'm just going to stand here rather than but FREP applications are open now, so if anyone is interested in FREP, the link is in the bio. Just put it out there, if anyone is in comms and welfare, you don't have to do the link, I'll be in touch with you. But please apply, please get involved.
And the executive.
And a second thing, there'll be some last minute stash collections tomorrow 1 till 5 on the daily.
Okay, so I've got a bit of correspondence as well. The annual JCR survey is now out. I'm going to publish it on the JCR officers group chat after this meeting, and I'm also going to post it on the JCR Instagram so everybody can access it. It's just kind of to get a gauge at events and stuff like that, what you'd like to see next year, what you not critic, but what things you'd like to see change this year. There's also the option for 3 Greg's £5 vouchers and a £15 Uber Eats that you send a screenshot in and send it at share@cats.com. So now we're going to start on the beefy stuff. So Dan's going to start with his annual report.
Thank you very much. Hello everyone, hope you're all well. Thank you so much for attending. I know it's fasting today, so if you've missed it for this, I really do appreciate that. It's my timetable that makes it awkward for everyone else, so if you're here against your will, it's my fault. But yeah, so obviously the presidential report is something that's really important to kind of close the year off with. And as I sat down to kind of write this, it became a 4,000 word document, and I was like, this is going to be a nightmare tomorrow. But I'm going to read through it. Hope you guys will find it at least a little bit interesting. It's going to reflect on a load of stuff. But I want to start off with a point that I just kind of want to make, which I think it'd be wrong to start off my report without acknowledging the JCR that I inherited this year. For those of you who are lucky enough to meet my predecessor, Ben Thomas, and be at this equivalent meeting last year, you'll know that the JCR last year witnessed a massive pivot. Culturally, sustainability-wise, and financially, Cuffs JCR in 23-24 had a facelift. After 3 years of consistent losses for the JCR, for the first time post-COVID, we became profitable once again. In the years leading up to COVID-19, the JCR had made considerable financial strides with net income profit from 2017 to 2019. However, due to several unavoidable incidents due to the pandemic, the JCR failed to reassess its financial position, having 2 employees for 21-22 and 22-23. This is a massive contributing factor to the combined loss of over £72,000 that we made. Alongside rises in Maiden Castle sports and inflationary pressures, our financial situation looking 3 years back was not great. Under Sam and Ben, the previous JCR Treasurer and President of the Society, we saw the JCR once again return to profitability. Way back in my first year, I remember being privy to a conversation during an exec meeting which said that if the JCR stayed on its financial trajectory that it was on in that moment, there would be no JCR in 5 years' time. Now, I'm honoured to be passing on to that 5th year. It does feel like a real testament to the work of the volunteers that have come before us and those of you in this room that Saf and I have been able to give our reports with optimism. And as we look over the next year, I think that considering this could have been the last year that Cuts JCR existed, we should all be, although critical and honest about this organisation, still incredibly proud. I'm going to start off the report with Freshers Week, and we'll kind of run through the year term by term and see what events we kind of want to talk about. We had a massive take up on Freshers Week this year. Wristband sales left us in a massive profit. This came in part from a refund of a rodeo sheep that exploded on the final day of Freshers Week. But it also comes from the university's unexpected large portion of undergraduates that are left on this year, and those undergraduates who were not allocated college accommodation, described as members-only students to the university. From Freshers Week, we had students of other colleges buying our Freshers Week wristbands, which meant that we had even more profit on top of what we'd already predicted. After managing to decrease the price of our club entry wristbands by £2 and non-clubbing by £1, leaving us at £34 and £23 respectively, we sold 352 wristbands for Freshers Week, making us £10,733.99p. This went alongside setting a record for recent history of 92% of undergraduates becoming members of the JCR this year, giving us £7,315.50 more reliable income than we had in last year by the end of the year. Freshers Week overall was fantastically planned, classically tiring, but looking back now was a demonstration of something that I was really proud of this year, which was the message that if you don't volunteer straight away in your first year, it's not the end of the line. 35 out of our 65 reps that we had this year, including exec, welfare, marginalised group reps and myself, had not held a method 1, 2 or 3 position before volunteering. Culturally, the freshers that we had this year has been a relative success the freshers cohort this year has been a relative success depending on how you view it. I think often we are plagued by the view that success with engagement is the number of first year undergraduates and postgraduates that we see engaging directly in volunteering positions. Yet, most of our members engage through sports and societies, and I think the focus that we've had this year on engaging with teams, clubs and societies, which has often felt autonomous in the past, is a measure of our success and how we should measure it more accurately. One of our charitable aims is, as a relative students' union with charity status, is the provision of social, cultural, recreational activities and forums for discussion and debate for the development of its students. And I think engagement in this area has been really, really positive. This doesn't diminish the dedicated volunteers that have joined the team this year. We've had a fantastic year of first years. Again, undergraduates and postgraduates taking up these roles. I think compared to other years that we've had, I can describe the engagement in volunteering this year as depth. That's to say that those that have been dedicated have done so much, but the quantity-wise is less than we've seen in previous years. In total, the JCR levy made us this year £54,280, that includes both income from Square and also from e-commerce run by the university. Going on to the first term and the rest of the events, we had Oktoberfest. One of the goals this year was bringing back smaller and cheaper events. Coming off the back of a very successful Freshers Week, thanks to the team, Matilda at the helm of it, we ran our Oktoberfest event at the back end of October. That's in the name. We had 160 tickets at £12.50 for JCR members and £15 for non-JCR members, and tickets sold out within 10 minutes. Did this leave us with a false sense of security when it came to ticket sales for the year? Yes. But was it worth it for a fantastic night? Absolutely. Then we had Michaelmas Ball. Michaelmas came with a lot of challenges. Michaelmas Ball was the first event of the year for the JCR, which highlighted a year-long issue of ticket sales. Something that, for note, has been an issue across the common rooms in Durham and is not something we faced alone. When tickets were released, we sold 70% in the first hour. However, post that initial rush, we only ended up selling 430 tickets in total, to 120 less tickets than 23-24. Saf and I worked extraordinarily hard to mitigate the loss this event could have caused us by employing exponential budgeting. Basically, only signing off the contracts and payments that we have when we reached a certain amount of ticket sales. This saved us financially. However, did it impact the quality of events that we had at the ball? The quality of events we had at the ball? Absolutely as well. Ticket costs remain the same for JCR members this year, 67 for dining and 37 for Ents, whereas costs for non-JCR members increased for Ents by £3. Feast was far less challenging this year compared to its Michaelmas counterpart. Exponential budgeting again was keen in showing that we were in the green for this event. This year we priced our JCR members tickets at £45 for dinner and £28 for Ents, which is an increase of £1 for dinner and £2 for Ents. With dinner tickets only being available for JCR members and Ents tickets coming in at £35 for non-members. We sold out dinner tickets in a couple of days after the ticket release and reached our predicted number of Ents tickets very early on as well. With the capacity of the venue, obviously being here, meaning that we had the ability to sell extra tickets. FICOM aided us this year in redistributing into that profit into the budget. This set the precedent for our financial aims for the year when it came to events. Whereas other JCRs run events to build their reserves as, as we became the largest JCR, as we got the largest amount of reserves out of the JCR in Durham this year, we decided to aim towards net zero on our events. And lean to the green due to we had to lean to the green due to our events being charitable fundraisers as well. We explored op keys and other tech expenditures for fees, however, with prices increasing, to keep the costs as low as possible and retain our self-reliance on our tech. As of 2 days ago, as it is fresh on the mind, we had Summer Ball. We saw an increase in ticket prices from last year by £3 for dinner, but for the first time in recent history, or my memory at least, and I'm old, so that says a lot, we introduced an Ents option for the more affordable £40. This was due to the venue costs that we took on this year. We obviously went to Derwent Manor, a venue that we hadn't been back to in 3 years, which was very exciting. However, the venue costs for dining tickets increased by £7.50 per head of dining compared to Hardwick from last year. This therefore left us with an absolutely tiny margin of profit for every dinner ticket we sold. Hence, the introduction of Ents tickets, which provided us with a much larger margin of profit that we then again directly funneled back into the event. Ents sold out within 24 hours, which meant that we could reopen and add more Ents tickets later on due to the venue capacity. Still, although budgeting left us in the green, we did see a dip in attendance by 50 in total. But we were able to negotiate a load of other kind of deals for the event the other day, which was really exciting. We added another fairground ride compared to last year for a fraction of the price. We had 500 total free portions of food and a further set of fantastic events, Ents even. Working with Derwent as a venue was a nightmare. It was tricky, and I won't go into too many anecdotes about the poor management. But I will say, having their emails and finances hacked a week before the event was an interesting experience when invoices of over £30,000 per common room were being intercepted by hackers. And a certain JCR may have sent that money to them. ...
Yeah, they did.
They've got the money back now. Then we have Cuths Day, so now we'll look into the future, next Friday. Cuths Day is always a difficult one. It seems to have been hit by the same treatment as all of the events that we've had this, in terms of attendees, but tickets are still on sale up until Friday next week, which is the day of our event. So, we will have a clearer picture of its impact on the term as term comes to a close. At the moment, we have around 300 guests attending, but we are aiming for 400. However, this was predicted last year, hence a budgeting subsidy has been put in place which hopefully mitigates any losses that we do make. All being said, the event should be great fun. We've got a deal for tech for the day, and I think we should have a proper send-off to a fantastic year. Standard ticket prices for JCR members increased by £1 and late stay by £2. However, Cuths Day compared to other college days is on the middling side of expensive. This is for several reasons. Many JCRs take mass profit for Summer Ball and use said profit to fund their college days. That option to me seems appealing. No, that's not true. Others obviously use college to pay for their full events. Neither of those options to me seems appealing. However, I am currently working with Tammy, the principal of the society, to discuss a subsidy agreement for the coming year to get Cuths Day on the cheaper side for next year. Totaling and coming to the conclusion of our events headline, looking at events costs compared to inflation increase. If you were to be a JCR member who attended every event with a dinner ticket or late stay, that would have costed you £211 this year. compared to 241 last year. This was an inflationary. If it was an inflationary increase, you'd have been paying £249.44. So not only did we have a below inflation cost, we were actually able to provide a decrease of £30 for all of our events. So, now I'm going to go into committees and societies anyway. Committees overall this year have had a great success, with members who have been on committees now taking up executive roles and other Method 1 positions for next year. I'm so proud of everyone that's been able to get involved this year, and if you're getting involved today, it is absolutely a fantastic opportunity that I implore anyone to be able to do. The culture this year has been absolutely fantastic, and that's a lot in part due to my executive manage their teams, but also due to the culture that the whole Cuts population has been able to kind of live through this year. I'm incredibly proud. Sports and societies, with Oscar at the helm, has had a really interesting year. I think it's ironic that I'm speaking about this while we have Hillby varsity, but generally, committees like Well Committee have done a fantastic job of engaging with sports teams and societies. Oscar has been an absolute asset when dealing with the absolute agony, which is Team Durham. Definitely no one in particular. We've had our challenges. We have challenges which have been affecting engagement in certain societies, to no fault of any individuals, and training spaces have been an absolute nightmare to negotiate and difficult for those teams affected. But as we finish off the term and look to the next year, I'm hoping that some of my tears have left the groundwork done to rectify the issues for next year. And a massive thank you to all of those who are on an exec level at sports and societies, and for making this year genuinely so pleasurable. Going on to JCR meetings and engagement, JCR meetings and specifically engagement within JCR meetings has been moderate again, or as I would like to describe it once again, it's dense. The committee have worked tirelessly behind the scenes and dealt with several challenges and done some absolutely fantastic work on improving meetings. So I do believe we are genuinely moving in the right direction when it comes to JCR meetings. We still have 10 Method 1 positions which haven't been filled for next year, 3 of them being executive positions. And a reminder, you can run it for any of these in meeting 3.3 on the 21st. Now on to PresCom. I've said too many times this year, but I have been this year's President's Committee Chair. It's been an absolute whirlwind with the Pro Vice Chancellor leaving and then the role not being filled. But then there's been a lot of focus and energy on my end on strategy for PresCom. Some of the key things that I've worked on this year have been voluntary severance, the Feed the Freps campaign, the Frepping framework at large, the library opening hours for the Bill Bryson Library, peer-to-peer student support frameworks, general Durham SU relations, the marking assessment boycott, composition fee, room check for livers in, and trans non-binary student support with the Supreme Court judgment ruling. And finally, obviously, formal pricing as well. I'm going to go through a little bit. I haven't written anything about these, about kind of what we've been able to achieve this year through this. But if we start with voluntary severance, we'll know that the university is in a massive deficit at the moment, and therefore have offered a voluntary severance package to a lot of its staff members. This was taken to the President's Committee, of which I'm the chair, and we've basically had a lot of conversations with both the Vice Chancellor of the university, the Pro Vice Chancellor, acting Pro Vice Chancellor anyway, of wider student experiences in colleges to hopefully protect our staff members that work in the college system. We were optimistic for a long, long time about how VS was going and how we were in one of the supported areas. However, in the last coming weeks, I think we've had less optimism with certain members of staff rejecting voluntary severance packages and therefore colleges being affected more broadly. But generally, it's been a tireless battle for it, and it feeds into the marking assessment boycott. But obviously, the university are doing the voluntary severance, and hopefully, staff members feel as supported as possible by the common rooms. Looking at the marking assessment boycott, obviously the UCU decided to strike this year once again, after they did in 2022. Is that correct? Yeah, 2022. And they introduced a marking assessment boycott. This was really, really difficult for a lot of students. However, obviously, as Cuts JCR, we have in the past very strongly supported our staff members and their right to strike and everything in between. So PresCom this year very much took the place of being a diplomatic midway between the UCU and the Vice Chancellor as they were arguing. The analogy that I gave to the Vice Chancellor, which she seemed to enjoy, was when all the communications going about the marking assessment boycott, it seems like she's playing tennis with the UCU and the students are just watching. The ball's in the court, back and forth, and at the moment the students had no clue what was going on. And it was appalling was the level of communication from the university. However, We got loads of kind of regulations in place for if the marketing proposal would have gone ahead. We met with the UCU, and on that day they decided to call the map off, which was great fun. But it was generally good work, and I think really onto SU relations, we really solidified ourselves as common room heads, as the grassroots ears for the university. The SU, unfortunately, by proxy of having so many members and all students being kind of like members automatically on an opt-out basis, they have their work is so broad. Their work is over so many students and interacting with so many students, whereas being to engage with a concentrated group of students gives you a lot better access to be able to hear people on the floor, and I think that was really, really useful. I think it was something that I'll be brought into future years between SU and JCR relations. The competition fee, we were able to get an increase somehow in our competition fee. The competition fee, staff will have a look at, you'll see it on staff's budgets later, is our reliable source of income, which is a donation from the university that they source with each year. We were threatened with a 6% decrease. We ended up negotiating a 1.5% increase, which was nothing that I'd ever expected for it, to be honest. We did work on the library. We were told many a time that we are non-academic members of staff and therefore have nothing to do with the library. But obviously I had plenty of people telling me that they were not pleased with the library opening hours. And as much as one individual at the university claims that they got the library open, I will say this one last time, it was Prescom that got the library open. Thank you so much. Big ups. But yeah, that was really, really good fun. I think we solidified that we have the right to talk about stuff even if you don't think in like regulations we can talk about it. And again, we hear the voices, other members of the university that are supposed to be catching student voice sometimes do not. Generally, SU relations have been really positive this year. I've done a ton of work with Dan Lonsdale over at the SU and the rest of the SAB team there, and it's been an absolute pleasure. I've really, really enjoyed it, and I'm going to miss working with them. I think SU relations will up, specifically for us. However, there's loads of work done. Obviously, we've got some SABs in the room for next year, and I'm really proud of them for being able to go forward and take that role on at the SU, and I think they can do fantastic work and do us proud. Finally, last two, we did room checks for livers in. We basically adjusted for the university owned and college operations owned colleges. We were able to reduce the amount of times that you had a room check per term, and introduce some kind of work that's going to be going on next year about how they record that. Obviously with FESS, they've kind of had to cut people's hours anyway, so it kind of went with what we were trying to go with. And then finally, trans and non-binary student support with the Supreme Court judgment ruling. Myself and Emmy over at John's, who's the John's SJCR president, did loads of work on kind of pleading to the EBI committee at the university that they would not rush into action when it came to this judgment, and they would not just start building new buildings and try and just kind of kick people out and make themselves automatically compliant. It's compliance with grievance. We as a JCR will face compliance measures that will have to be in place because of this ruling if it carries on. And what I said to them is you just don't rush into it, you listen to the Trans Association over at the SU and you take into account what they want. And yes, if you have to move to compliance, people will understand that. It's just a case of move slowly, not quickly. So that's everything that I'm going to go on. Formal pricing as well was a bit of a loss this year, unfortunately. Obviously formals are changing for next year, so that'll look a bit different, and I'm sure you'll do some fantastic work on that as well. This is the first year that an employed Prescom chair position has been available, and obviously I've taken on that role. This means that I'm employed to do 7 hours additional work through the SU. So that's been a really interesting kind of test journey for this year. I've worked on a project at the SU as well, and I think for next year it's going to change a little bit to be a common room representative of the SU and JCR. Prescom chair will assume that responsibility as well. But no, it's been, again, pleasurable, stressful, 7 hours on top of whatever I do here, which is definitely not just 35 hours a week. And it's definitely not just 7 hours in Prescom. It's tiring, but it's been genuinely the most exciting part of this year in terms of being able to work on things that are going to hopefully better the experience for all of you guys at university. It's been a privilege, and it's been a massive privilege to be able to represent the Cuts voice on that level as well. Going back to Team Durham for a second, because I want to just learn about them a bit more. We've had a conversation with them, we had a conversation with the then Enrichment Directorate, and now, as of about a month ago, the Division of Student Experience team, about the management of college sport at Team Durham. The emails that have been sent to Prescom, from Prescom to Team Durham have been in the tens. The responses have been the single digits, and the accepted invites to one of our meetings has been 0. Fees at Team Durham are ever rising, not only for our college team but also for Team Durham athletes, which we subsidise through our participation fund. And generally, the organisation of college sport this year has been frankly appalling. Obviously, we are currently doing through our budget meeting as an example, and we still don't know Team Durham prices for next year. We found out 8 days before Freshers Week this year, which is really fun. IndieCom. Saf and I both sit on an independent committee, which is a committee of all of the independent common room presidents and treasurers, and we've done a lot of good work with them. My predecessor was the chair of IndieCom, and this year the Van Milder president is the chair, and working really closely with Neve over at Milder, we've done some fantastic work on trustee recruitment, and we were able to provide training sessions for the elected presidents, faxers and treasurers of next year for the independent common rooms. Independent common rooms are in a very peculiar place at the moment, but I'll go on to it later. Obviously, we want more colleges to go, JCRs to go indie. We always will, because it gives you a level of autonomy separate to the university. However, financials are dire. Other than us, we're fine. Internal changes to the Board of Trustees. The board has been really fantastic this year. James, as our exec trustee, has stepped up the plate as the vice chair for this year and done an absolutely fantastic job. We've worked a lot on alumni donations, employee support, and support of college, when it comes to issues that we've had with formal pricing. We've had a massive round of recruitment this year, with 4 new trustees joining the board on the 28th of June. Our chair of the board, Greg, has decided to cut his term short and step down as chair. So, looking into next quarter, we'll have a new chair, 4 new trustees from fantastically interesting backgrounds, and hopefully a year in which Thea and the rest of her team can enjoy with the board as well. Independent Common Room Assurance is the next section. We have now signed the SLA since its conception for the first time. We've never signed it when it got kind of introduced in 2022. And that has been a myriad of issues that have come with it, but conversations that I've both engaged with as president of this common room, but also president, committee chair as well. This is because I sit on the wider student experience committee at the university, which is an executive committee of the university. And my conversation points have been about SLA assurance. Basically, the SLA, I don't know if I've already explained this, is the agreement that independent common rooms have with the university. It gives you things like policies and how are you going to have the rights to certain things, data, information, your agreements to property, and your relationship actually working with your colleges in general. So yeah, we obviously, with that, have a set of assurances. As headed by Karen Langdon, she set up an insurance document this year, which I helped, I then later on helped or ghost wrote a paper which went through Senate and other executive bodies of the university, which relayed our feedback after an internal deadline was set by the division, asking college principals to check on our internal workings without telling the common rooms it's happening. This paper has now passed and is going to the Governance and Nominations Committee of the university and is hopefully being implemented into the university strategy post 2027. College finance is something I want to talk about. Frankly, my first line that I've written here is college finance has been wank. From not paying open day reps after incorrectly allowing us to onboard them, to sending invoices to us for money that was donated to us. Partly, this is because the team's shrinking due to the SS and long-term members of the team leaving at the beginning of the year. But generally, it's inexcusable and has led to a difficult challenge for our relationship and our partnership with college. I'm working as hard as I can as a non-college employee to get everything sorted with our books for the end of year, but it's something that I think will be a long-term obstacle for the JCR to face in the coming years. Tech and facilities have benefited greatly this year from all the effort that was put into them last year. Our rentals, as staff will go over, have been well used. Our insurance has been tested by the Great Flood of House 8 this year, which occurred the night before Panto, which they needed to do all the tech from. Which was so fun. I remember picking up with half House 8 all of the kind of soggy lights that we had. Luckily, outdoor lights are a bit more waterproof than you expect. But yeah, it was great. It was an interesting story that I think will live on hopefully. I think we'll be looking at upgrading our catalogue going into next year. We've not done this year. Silent Disco headphones, a little bit of a refresh, there's some broken ones from the amount of rentals that we've done this year. I think we need to continue our upgrades to the room, following on Chloe's great work that she's been able to do this year. Going on to my kind of do list for next year and to hopefully give a kind of points to encouragement for next year. I think one of the main points is going to be the library. James and I have done fantastic work this year on renovating some of the desks and the chairs and things like that. However, it's been an absolute point teeth in it. It's been a nightmare in terms of finances and agreements that I've made about 5 years ago to pay a certain amount of money and not pay a certain amount of money. But our new college vice principal, Matthew, is coming in with a whole load of ideas to have a big renovation of the library in the following years. And I think for next year, the Society Librarian and President will be able to do great work with that. The House 8 conference room and the common room realignment, in terms of common room, as in physical common room, not the bodies themselves. Next year, the college are looking at kind of moving some rooms around so we have a bigger enrichment portfolio and area to do kind of more wider student experience stuff on their front as well. And with that, we're going to be losing the House 12 JCR. That does not mean that we will lose the House 12 JCR in theory. It means that we're going to get an actual common room rather than a meeting space in House 8, and then we're going to have our meeting space in House 12 still. They're removing the SCR and making that into a kind of, again, an all common room space as well, and hopefully it means that the curse that we currently have this year of us having a lot of rooms, a lot of things in them that no one uses, will hopefully be a bit more alleviated. But this is, again, something that will be worked on next year. Our alumni network, the president of the Alumni Association has come up a couple times this year and we've had a couple of discussions. We're integrating the alumni network into the handover that I'll do my successor. We've got plans for that, and I think the board as well, so our trustees have some big ideas for what we can do to engage in our alumni network, although sometimes we think they're a little bit optimistic. Collaboration with college on our portfolio for WSC is exactly what I was saying before. This year we've launched the Evergreen Project, which is a massive success. And it's mainly down to a lot of the work that Matthew's been able to come in and do as a fresh set of eyes on the college. But it's very much been a partnership effort between myself, him, Tammy, and the college officers on getting it all set up. But I think there's no harm in us encouraging college to do more. All it means is that our students that we proudly represent have more to do at the society. So, the summary. This year has not been challenge-free. Although I have inherited a JCR, which has given me the opportunity, the offer that we've had for the students here in Cuts, difficulties have been faced in terms of our events, with engagement. We've had the most challengeable college staff team, college staff team in recent history. A lot of issues in the wider university has deterred my gaze from the internal work that I wish I could have been able to do this year. We've had some really challenging incidents go on this year which have impacted a lot of common room presidents massively. But as every president of the society will ever say, the mark of a great presidency is to leave the JCR in a better state than when you were handed with. And although we've had our challenges, I was handed a JCR that was in a lot better state than others. I truly hope you agree that this year has been one to look back on fondly. And I hope to leave Thea and the rest for them to make it even better. My focus this year has been a lot to do with culture and frameworks. One of the biggest shortfalls of common rooms is turnover with workload, and our workforce obviously rotating every single year practically. Building up these frameworks so we have as much knowledge retention has really been a key aim of mine. When it comes to projects I've been able to do with the student support team and the welfare officers and things like that, I really hope to leave this year with a set of volunteers that, well, I hope to leave this year with a set of volunteers that I'm not only proud of, but are proud of themselves. I do hope that I've been able to achieve that, and it's up to you guys to decide that. Finances have been another huge priority this year, and working with staff has not only been an absolute pleasure, but I am also really proud of what I've been able to achieve and what she's been able to achieve. Staff will go into more detail on the finances in a second. I'll leave you with that. It's an absolute pleasure to work with, and I'm going to miss her a lot when I leave. Cuts remains a trendsetter here in Durham. There's something about the students that come through this place. I've been chair of PresCon this year. I really do think we are still ahead of the curve, inspiring other JCRs and collaborating when they have better practice as well. So, overall, it's been an absolute pleasure being the president of the society this year, and I'm aware that the last God knows how long minutes I've been talking have probably kind of made me fall asleep. and being focused very much on myself and the work that I've done this year. But as I said in my host for when I ran for this position, the role of the president isn't to be the JCR, it's to be responsible for the members which make up the charity, and I genuinely couldn't have done it without you all. Saf, Caleb, Louise Newbury, Louise Giles, Tom, Sarah, Evie, James, Luke, Oscar, Rosie, Victoria, and of course my successor Thea, and every other volunteer that I've had on my team this year. Thank you for making this year something I will look back on in pride, but also a year that I hope students to come look back on fondly. I have so much faith in Thea and the team for next year, and they'll be able to build an even higher on the successes that have been made this year, and I can't wait to see what you all achieve. Remember, the Sports and Societies Awards formal tickets are out now. I can't wait to see you all there. I can't wait to celebrate you all. You're absolutely fantastic. And I think I might just miss this a little bit. Thank you so much.
Have you got the job yet?
No.
Any other questions?
Florence? Turn on. Yeah. He gives me bills. Oh my god. He gives me butterflies to my Did I do it? It's green. No, I think he is. To be fair, I mean,
Are you pregnant?
no, but I'm just saying Alex got married before he's pregnant.
No, but
Yeah, no, I just
oh, fair. Yeah. No. Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Saf and I'm the treasurer, and I'm just going to go through, first of all, just a bit of an overview of how the year's gone financially first. So, this is the second year that we have a treasurer, so it's not a paid job. We used to have an FCO, so a finance and compliance officer, and they used to be paid around 22k. So it was a job like Dan's basically, and so they moved it to a volunteer position as a student, which, you know, I've realised now how much work it was. But yeah, so I've used a lot of Sam, who was the previous treasurer. He set up quite a lot for us. It was really useful. Especially like the reclaims thing, people used to have to like email every single reclaim to me, and then I would have to put it into a spreadsheet. But thankfully now we have like the automated system. They began using Square for all of our tickets last year, and Dan
kind of saw the fees that they were charging for that with our Freshers Week and like the levies and with the levies and stuff, and it was quite high. So we looked into alternate ticketing systems like Fixer, but then the only way that we could afford that is if we had to put the fee onto the customer. So that means that you guys would be paying more, and obviously we want to keep things as cheap as possible. As Dan said, keeping things accessible is our priority, so we're just sticking with Square now. Most of our events have gone quite well this year, except for Michael's Ball that and this year, once again, we've had to obviously try and keep our prices low as possible, because of obviously the ridiculous prices in Durham and the cost of living crisis just in general. To try and counteract that, we've had £4,000 in the participation fund, and we've had £3,000 in the event accessibility fund, which has supported over 90 students this year, and it only usually, I think, it only usually has uptake of like 50 students, so it's doubled, which is quite good. We've introduced the another level of Durham grant that you can reclaim back. So if you were to receive the minimum Durham grant, which is at the moment £100, you weren't eligible to reclaim any of the event accessibility fund, but now you can claim 5% of your ticket costs. And then we've just continued with the other funds, so the Gender Expression Fund and the SWT Fund, the Students with Disabilities Fund, that's that. And overall so far, we've spent over £25,000 investing directly in sports and societies to try and keep the costs as low as possible. So, missions made by us. So every time that we run an event, we do it as a fundraiser for the JCR, and also with our balls, we donate £1 per ticket to a charity of Outreach Committee's choice. So obviously we have the welfare, the November Foundation. The £8,000 is what's been raised in total by CUT students. Durham Hygiene Bank was donated, that money was raised by the 12 Days of Outreach, and the £137 from the tickets for fees is also for Durham Hygiene Bank, I think, which is right, yeah. And then FEMSOC had a fundraiser where they raised £163.04, and that's for everyone's invited. And then our fashion show, we managed to raise, I think it was 9,000 and something pounds, and then college topped it up, which was very lovely. And that was Dash. And then for Summer Ball that we've just had, we've again donated £1 from every ticket to everyone's invited. Okay, we only have one affiliation with the JCR this year, and that's the National Council for Voluntary Organisations, which we have to have. But yeah, we don't have any others this year. Okay, so this is from Sam. I've just copied it over because it's quite useful to know. He does like to talk quite posh, so it's a bit wordy. So obviously COVID-19, the pandemic, we began to lose a lot of money because we had to use our reserves, our savings. So in 2018 and 2019, we used to make 70k in levies, and obviously they were a lot cheaper back then as well. But now we struggle to even to make 50 grand. Which we've managed to get 50 grand this year, which is it's the highest the percentage of levy intake is the highest it's ever been which is quite good. Yeah, we're trying to get our reserves, our savings, back to those pre-pandemic levels, which were approximately like 200k, and we currently have 100k in the bank. So we're trying to get there. Louise. So yeah, last year marked a turning point in JCR because that was the first time that we had a treasurer since 2021. And obviously we saved a lot of money from the accommodation costs and the salaries that we would have had to pay. Sam and Ben managed to put those funds back in to buying things like the silent disco headsets and stuff like that, and being able to subsidise sports and societies more. Last year marked the start of the JCR being able to survive within its means and restore its reserves levels to pre-COVID levels. And if the JCR continued to make losses year on year, the charity would have ceased to exist, like Dan said. So yeah, we've got 120k in our savings account, but this is obviously half of what we used to have in 2020. And so last year Sam created this thing called a financial lock, which means that we need to make at least 5k each year to restore these reserves to like healthy levels. Louise. So with that in mind, these are the numbers for the events that we've hosted this year so far. So Freshers Week, like Dan said, we got that refund, so we accidentally made £2,500. But we weren't supposed to do that. We were supposed to be around £200. But thankfully we were able to then use that money to not be as in such a bad position because of the Mittens Ball chaos. So Oktoberfest ran how we would like normally expect one of our events to run, like very minimal profit. When we run an event, we run them as fundraisers, so that means we don't have to pay VAT. So we like have to make some profit, whether it's a pound or £100. We have to budget to make profit. So yeah, and then Feast, we did really, really well. We did the exponential budgeting, which Dan mentioned earlier, so we predicted a lot less tickets to sell, but then they sold out and we were able to sell more, which was good. And then with that extra profit, we were able to funnel that back into the event, so we got loaded fries, and yeah. And then Super Bowl ran pretty much how we predicted, and then Cubs Day, it's making a loss at the moment because we haven't finished selling tickets. So if you haven't got a Cubs Day ticket, please buy one, because I don't want to be £4,000 in the night. But yeah, tickets still after that, and obviously the more tickets that are bought, the more we can put back into the event and get more food and stuff like that. Yeah, so this is kind of a pie chart of where all of our spending goes throughout the year. So obviously a lot of it goes to events, and then the sabbatical is Dan. So that's his salary, his accommodation and food. Yes, that's it. And then we obviously spend quite a lot on spots and slots. Facilities are the gym that needs to be serviced every year, the pool table that sometimes need resurfacing, blah blah blah. And then committees, they obviously don't charge subs, so they need kind of money to run. So that'd be like welfare, so that includes like the sexual health products, the menstrual supplies. Any campaigns that they run like Stress Less, so that includes like the ice cream van, the petting zoo, and all of that. And then yeah, obviously the library, we need like biscuits to fill it. Louise. Okay, so getting onto the budgets now. So these are the budgets that have over £500 that have been allocated to them. So if everyone is here from those clubs, you'll be able to come up and kind of explain what you're doing with the budget, and kind of why you think that you need above £500 basically. So, if you want to. But yeah. Oh, I used the second, the one at the bottom that you did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. I don't know what we want to say. Yeah. So we want to change our subs this year to increase them, so that people pay less overall throughout the year. So even though the cost is greater at the start,
it in theory makes the book club more accessible because instead of paying
This year's
this year you sort of pay, like I don't know, you this year paid
130
Yeah.
quid, something like that.
so even though the subs were you paid £55 in subs and then
Yeah.
the extra throughout the year. The idea is that you pay £80 at the start, and then that's your only cost. But for people who may not be racing much, because that's where the other cost comes in, we'd also like to put in, and I didn't put this in, and I was because we weren't sure how we wanted to do it. So
Okay.
let me know if it's okay. But we want to include a option that's still £50, a £50 sub, that they can pay if they don't want to race that much, and then. For example, if they're only racing once, they then can pay just for that race. So the idea is that for anyone who would be paying less than 80 throughout the year, they still have that option. And so that's for people, seniors in the boat club. And then for freshers coming in, to sort of get them involved and reduce the barrier to entry at the start, we would like to have subs that are a total of £60, so they're cheaper overall, but also that are split into two parts. That's so only
It's
£15 for the first term.
which is up £2.50 from this year.
Yeah.
And then one thing that we haven't been doing in previous years is, even though those people are all paying one sub throughout the year, it's split into two halves. We've been treating them as two separate subs, so they'd be paying the £50 and then paying 45, whereas we're also asking to have that considered as a sub, because with the way the JCR runs it, where it's matched 3 to 1 over £20, that then actually means that it's worth us keeping that system of please come and try the sport. It's £15 for your first term, which is probably the cheapest rowing you'll find in the country. And then also being able to charge more, and it doesn't affect us by splitting it that way.
Does anyone have any questions? So I assume we're happy to pass this in general line? Okay. Great, thank you. So next is who's next? Climbing. Is there anyone here from climbing? Okay. So it's very similar to what they had last year. They're a bit different because obviously they don't have actual expenditure. We just subsidise the cost of their climbing session. So if you were a member of the climbing club and you went to Durham Climbing Centre and it's usually, I don't know, £6-ish, you'd then be able to claim back £3. So last year they had 1,200 and something, and they're kind of getting near that now. So I just yes. So it would then cover that. So anyone have any questions about climbing? Nope. Okay. Are we happy to pass that one? Super. Okay. Louise, next one. Anyone from cricket?
I think they're all at varsity, that's the problem.
Yeah. Possible, okay. So cricket is basically the exact same. No, it's not. It's very similar to just a normal sport. They had 1,100 this year, and they're getting close to that. So they just requested £30 more. So yeah, I'm sure that that's fine. Next one, Louise. Can we pass it? Great. Okay, men's football. Anyone for men's football? Okay. So men's football have 6 teams, so that's why they have quite a lot of spending. And yeah, it's very similar again. They're they were allocated 4,800 and something, and they're getting quite close to that. So they've just asked for a little bit more. And this past year they went and spent loads of money without asking on bibs, of all things. And yeah, so we've allocated for that and then we do it. And yes, anyone have any questions about football? No? Any? Can we pass this one as well? Next one, Louise. Okay, women's football, very, very similar. Yes, so they had a budget of 800 this year, and they're getting quite close to that, so we've decided to up it. Also, a lot of these budgets only take into account what Maiden Castle's prices are currently, because we keep trying to get in contact with them, and they are not replying and telling us what their prices will be increased to next year. So that's just going to have to be something that that Maddie and Future FIFCOM consider. But for now, I think that this is fine. So does anyone have any questions about women's football? No. Can we pass it? Thank you, Sarah. Okay, golf. Golf is exactly the same as climbing. If you go for a golf session at one of the allocated golf places, you could claim half of your back. And there's been quite a few people in golf this year, so we've increased it by £60. So does anyone have any questions about golf? Any other questions? Okay, can we pass this one? Okay, hockey, come here, please. Okay.
There's basically one big difference is that next year we're trying to get a B team for the women's team because we have a lot of players, and we also want more players because a lot of people aren't joining because we don't have a B team and they might not played it a lot. The cost of each team is £300, and then we have umpire costs, which is approximately like £400 between the three teams. And yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. And we're buying balls in bulk, so it's cheaper in the long term, even though we might not need 100. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Any questions for Luke? Okay, go pass it. And then I think this is the last one. Netball. They have quite a lot of teams, but they have a lot less costs because they play inside sometimes as well. So the indoor courts at Maiden Castle are free. The outdoor ones you have to pay for. So anyone have any questions about netball? No? Okay, can we pass it? Okay, great. Okay, so these are the other ones that don't have a budget of at least £500. So if anyone has any questions about those, let me know. If not, then they've been passed by finance committees. If that is okay. On to the next one, please. Okay. So these are the sabbatical expenses that I was on about. That's Dan's salary. It's going to stay the same. His president's accommodation should be the same. It's been the same for the past couple of years, and I haven't been told that there's going to be an increase, so that should be fine. And we get some random training support from our accountants if we need it, but we haven't used that this year, so I've just kept it the same price. Next, Louise. So facilities. This is the music room. So Greg Carl is one of the trustees. He gives us £85 a month for this thing called the Greg Carl Langley Music Fund, and that's supposed to be used for specifically music things. But because he's ending his term as a trustee, we need to kind of see if he's going to still want to continue with that. And if he doesn't, then we'll look at increasing this budget more in the future, but for now £250 is so fine. The facilities office, the room machine, this is basically, so we have like our tech, our lighting, silent disco headsets, and this is what we rent out to people. So so far this year we've raised, generated £3,100 in income. So I've predicted a very similar number, and we have £500 just in case that we want to replace any of the headphones because some of them are getting a bit battered now. The gym, We have to service the gym each year. It's £450-ish. Some of the equipment apparently needs replacing, so that's why we have it up to £700. Pool table, that generates its own income, obviously with the 20p's that gets put in it, and the recovering of the top usually costs around £300, so that's why that is up to £400. And then stash income. We only made £1,400 from stash this year. We have an agreement with the company, so they give us 10% of whatever they get. So I've just put it into the very low number. And then on the next slide, please. This is just a load of admin. A lot of them are going to be exactly the same, except from which one is it? Exec stash, because we have a new exec member, so I updated that. And also minor admin, we don't use that, so it used to be £200 and we've reduced it to 50. Next one, Louise. Committees. Okay, so Bailey Wardrobe had a budget of £200 this year, and they haven't bought anything yet, so we're going to keep that the same so they can get some new dresses, hopefully. GMCom has asked us the same amount, because it's international committees getting £400 because they haven't spent £100 yet of your current budget this year, so I didn't want to increase it because there was no point. But hopefully next year, when there's a communities committee chair, they can help direct and help with organising events and stuff. Environment committee, same. Social com, this used to be £750, but we actually don't know what it's for. Because the events have their own budget, so they generate their own income and then they pay for themselves. So the social committee doesn't actually need any money unless they were to invest in something like table covers or something like that. So we've kept it at £250, just in case someone wants to invest or something. Governance committee, same as this year because it works. Welfare, the same again. Communities committee, the same again. Development office, we have increased it to £200 because because this year, Rosie, was it a contract? It's okay. Because this year we had some headshots and stuff like that, so we want to be able to keep those in budget. Outreach, we've increased it again by £50, but college do a lot of donating to outreach, so you can kind of get your money from there. And then the exec, I have £100 for them. We don't really use it, to be honest, but if we wanted to do any training or maybe buy something for the exec office, then that's there for that. And then James has requested £500 for the library for biscuits. Yeah.
Down from 660.
You requested £500, you could have requested £660.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was like,
okay, next one is awards. So we are expecting a gold DLB next year. So they cost around £350 because it's a silver gold badge. It's an award basically, and so that's why that one has increased quite a lot. The team photos in the bar, so it's just these photos that are in here, and then formals, that's like note cards, pens, all of that, and then custody subsidy is for when we are in a pickle and we need to pay for custody. Reliable income, so we're keeping the JCR levy the same price this year, at £172.50. It increased by £10 last year, so we didn't want to do anything too drastic again this year. And obviously, like me and Dan have already said, we want to keep costs as low as possible, and we do think that with these prices we managed to get over 50k, so as long as we've got the advertising and all of that, then I think we should definitely be fine with that. composition fee. This is what the university gives us. It's based on how many students we've got, and it's been increased by 1.5%. So we've got 17 grand this year, and then we also get a third of all the bar profits. So we should hopefully be getting 6 grand ish from those. Next one, Louise. Funds. Okay, so obviously we need to double check the Greg Howe Langley Music Fund. The participation fund, we are keeping it the same at £4,500 because a lot of people just haven't really used that one that much this year. We kind of changed how we've done it. So it used to be you can just like get the money without having to prove that you've actually bought the things you said you were going to buy. But I've changed it this year, so you have to send me a receipt basically, and then you can get the money back. So a lot of people have not been reclaiming for that, so we've actually got quite a lot left of that. We've still got about 3 grand left of that one, which is insane. The Event Accessibility Fund, even though 90 people used it, we still have around £1,500 left of that, so we're keeping that one the same for now. Obviously, if there's like a massive increase in demand next year, they can just change it in FICOM. That'll be fine. Gender Expression Fund is staying the same because no one's used it this year, and the Students with Disabilities Fund has been doubled because of the demand that is had this year. And yeah, that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Does anyone have any questions for Sarah?
Yeah, just a quick one. The PG Event Accessibility Fund is £500. Is that just in the other one?
No, it's the second one.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Don't bother.
I'm going to take a short break because I need to wee, and we've been going for ages. So please reconvene in by past.
The motion!
Well, okay, can I ask? I missed all that.
It must have been shot through
500 points, jail, and one climbing. Like, that's why I don't care.